Welcome to a very special episode of the Pop Culture Junkie podcast. I am here with my lovely Feyre Archeron.
Also known as Shauna Trinidad.
Oh, it looks so good.
Oh my God. Okay, so thank you all for coming. This is Olivia's first Comic-Con. Well, I'm sorry. We're supposed to call it Fan Fusion.
Yes, it's Comic-Con in our heart.
So I have been calling it Comic-Con for weeks now, and my husband keeps going, it's called Fan Fusion. It's called Phoenix Fan Fusion. And then I get mad at him and I go, okay, so if I say I need a Kleenex, are you going to go, it's actually called tissue? Kleenex is the name brand.
You know,
you have to get used to it. It's called Phoenix Fan Fusion.
Yes. Well, we were at the lovely Fan Fusion. Shauna and I are cosplaying sisters today, a.k.a. Feyre and Nesta Archeron.
From A Court of Thorns and Roses.
Yes. I was very excited when people knew who I was. I didn't think they would. So we're very, very happy. And today we're going to be discussing a very special episode, and we're going to be talking about celebrity pop culture conspiracy theories. And I want to hear from the audience, what are your favorite celebrity pop culture conspiracy theories? Yeah, come on up.
Yeah, no, I want to hear yours because it was hilarious. So anything that you guys have heard, I think the more absurd, the better, honestly.
Yes.
And yeah, right up here.
Right at this lovely little mic. Yeah, come on up.
Say your name and then say your conspiracy theory, please.
So my name is Zenobia. And my conspiracy theory is, at least I've seen it on Instagram, so don't judge me too much.
I didn't make it up.
Oh my God.
Is that Hailey Bieber has been secretly Vladimir Putin this whole time. This makes me so personally happy.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. I have to clarify that Hailey Bieber and Putin are the same person.
Yes.
In this theory.
Yes.
Okay. Does this theory provide any background or reason why?
It's just the pictures of their faces. Have you seen them? They look so similar. It literally, they look like the same person.
My favorite
it's so
theories
funny.
are the ones that are so stupid, and it's only because they have the same nose. Thank
No,
you.
they really do.
That was
a lot
absurd, and I'm offended, but I love it.
Yes. Does anyone else in the audience have any good ones? I know we had one back here.
Wait,
Yes.
You gotta come up. You gotta tell us your name and your theory. Oh my God, you look so cute.
Yes.
Okay, wait, right into the mic. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Alex, also known as cosplayer Junko the Goddess. And
You look like a goddess.
Thank you. So my theory is that Margot Robbie has been lying about her age since the beginning.
Okay. To be older than she is or younger than she is?
To be older, so I think that she is actually 37, 38, and not really 32.
32.
Okay.
32. I could see that. She is beautiful beyond her years, so I don't know if her age matters, but I really could see it.
So before the show started rolling, I said, I'm actually 35, but I'm gonna start lying about it.
Yeah.
Now that I've put this on a podcast,
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of screwed. I'm gonna start lying and saying that I'm 19.
Oh, okay. That was a little generous.
Why
I
did you
love that so
guys
much.
all laugh?
Why did we all suddenly
I'll say 30.
go quiet?
30. 31, so that
31.
way we're the same age.
Yeah,
that way we're the same age.
people already think we're sisters.
I can say I'm 19.
Yeah.
I think that
yeah.
means you're 19 too,
You
sir.
look like you're 19. I believe it. I believe it. Well, I'm so excited. Today we're here to talk a little bit about pop culture conspiracy theories. And, before we dive into some specific ones, we have some really fun ones that will apply across the, ages and things that have continued over time. I wanted to talk a little bit about why you think conspiracy theories really exist in general. And, today we're going to keep it really light. We're not going to talk about anything too dark. Of course, conspiracy theories can take it there. But I think
no QAnon shit today, all right? We're keeping this Like,
We're going to keep it fun, like Lea Michelle can't read, fun. And so, ultimately.
there's light manslaughter.
There is a little bit of manslaughter in the Taylor Swift universe. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But I think what's so interesting about conspiracy theories is it's really a human concept to try to find meaning in bad times or meaningless situations. And, from your point of view, like, why do you think that we as a culture really do resonate with these and it can all be like, yeah, I think Hailey Bieber is Vladimir Putin?
I think there's a little bit of the absurdity factor in some of this stuff. Like, we know that some of this stuff there's no children here. We know some of this shit can't possibly be real, right? Like, Hailey Bieber is not Vladimir Putin. But with so much bad stuff actually going on in the world, it's kind of nice to imagine an absurd point of view where these things are real. Mm-hmm. But then when it gets into like the darker side of conspiracy theories, where we do get into some of that like stuff where people really start getting in trouble and the police start raiding joints where they don't need to, I think that is just like the human nature to seek answers to things that we can't explain, right? So like if conspiracy theories start getting to that dark place, I think it's because we all can't imagine that something this bad is happening, so we have to make up some absurd excuse for it.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time it's like the human brain tries to recognize patterns, no matter what, good or bad, and ultimately, like, we look for those, and where there isn't meaning, we try to find that.
You try to assign there has to be a reason that this thing happened, and it can't just be the absurdity of it all. I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know about you guys in the audience. Like,
Wait,
do you ever feel like a sense
Cheryl's
of community?
raising her hand.
I think people like knowing stuff that other people don't know.
Okay, yeah, it's a little bit of that, like, okay, how do I know something before others know, or how do I have this piece of information that that I can bring to a community and really build that sense of community together.
It's funny, like, if anybody in the room has ever met somebody and they're like, I know a celebrity, like, and they always try to tell you some weird tea about a celebrity, right? Like, I worked with this woman who swore up and down that she knew, the lead singer of Aerosmith, Steven Tyler, right?
What a brag.
And like, part of me like believed her, but she would tell me, honestly, things that you probably believe about Steven Tyler, unfortunately. But like, she wanted to be that one who had the knowledge, like, before everyone else did. So I totally think that's true. Is like, you want to be the one who's like, I know something you don't know. I got the tea and you don't. And listen, we literally host a podcast about pop culture. We want to know the tea before everyone else does, so we can speculate on it.
Yeah, well, on that note, I want to know, what is your favorite celebrity conspiracy theory?
Okay. I am going to pull up my notes for this one. This is probably one of the oldest celebrity conspiracy theories that I know of. So much that I texted my 72-year-old father this week to ask him how he felt about it. Have you guys ever heard the Paul is dead conspiracy
Have you ever
theory?
heard of the Beatles?
Have you ever heard of the band? Have you ever heard of the band The Beatles?
No, I've never heard of them.
Okay, so in 1966, there's this theory that Paul McCartney is on his way to a recording session, and he's in a car accident, and he is beheaded. And the British government finds out about it, and they convince the Beatles that if news gets out that Paul McCartney is dead, there will be riots in the street.
Yeah.
And so they convince the Beatles to hire this guy named Billy Sears, who looks like Paul McCartney.
Okay.
And they have the highest tech of 1960s plastic surgery to make him look like Paul McCartney and then take the place in the Beatles.
Okay, so the British government, I didn't know that the British government was involved in this. So they were ultimately like top down.
It goes
Like,
all the way to the
it goes
top,
all the way to
baby.
the queen. She's saying, you know what? At the end of the day, there's going to be riots in the streets.
I mean,
Paul is
listen, okay,
dead.
you have to think, okay, what if Taylor Swift, God forbid, if something happened to T Swift right now, the government would be like, there's going to be riots in this street, right?
Okay, I don't know if I would go, the U.S. government is going to pretend that Taylor
Guys,
Swift did
we
not
gotta
die
hire
at this exact
Taylor
moment.
Swift
Okay,
lookalike.
so I
I'm
want
sorry,
you to
that was
take
my
me-
Biden impersonation.
Yeah,
That was
I want
awful.
you to take me through the theory. Okay, so when did this theory initially start?
Okay,
Like,
so there's
who
these-
was the first person to be
there's
like,
these-
Paul McCartney is dead?
There's these college students, and they write this article about Paul McCartney being dead in the 60s.
Okay.
And it starts gaining traction, and eventually it goes to like major news. And people start rolling with the is Paul McCartney dead theory.
Okay.
There's a couple albums that are released where people who are like Beatle maniacs, Beatle heads, what do they call themselves? Beatle maniacs, Battaliacs.
I love that. You gave him a
Thank you.
fandom name.
Thank you. Baby Beatles. They start digging apart the album covers. So there's Abbey Road.
Okay.
I'm just
There's
going to go
the
through a couple
four
of them.
on the street.
Yep,
right?
and that's where the four of them are crossing the street. And Paul McCartney is the only barefoot one, which they say represents a corpse.
Oh.
There is this guy knows. You
He's
know
like,
Paul's
yes,
dead.
Paul is dead. John Lennon's at the center of
My
it.
dad, I texted my dad and I asked him about the Paul is dead conspiracy, and he said John Lennon's the one who planned the whole thing. That's a whole other conspiracy theory.
Pre-death, I'm assuming.
I don't know.
Was it after the grave? you know?
I have no idea. I just texted my dad and I was like, is Paul dead? He goes, no, John Lennon started that. And I was like,
Okay.
that's a whole other fucking bag of worms there.
Yes.
Anyway, so all of these different album covers that the Beatles release, they say that there's clues embedded in there as to Paul is dead. If you play the records backwards, they say things like, Paul is dead, ha ha ha, miss him so much.
Okay.
On Magical Mystery Tour, if you flip the album around, there's a phone number, and if you call it, they'll tell you about Paul being dead at the bottom.
Oh, wow.
But I think that is like kind of the original conspiracy theory that I can think of. And it got so bad that like photographers started showing up to Paul McCartney's house and like harassing his family.
Mm-hmm.
And he got to the point where they showed up and they were being such dicks to him.
Mm-hmm.
And they got such bad photographs and video of him that he went, you know what? Come in. Let me show you. And then he did a Time magazine video or a shoot where he's like, this is me. This is my house. I am very not dead.
Yeah.
But it kept going.
That's so interesting because at the same time, it's like, how do you prove that like you're not a clone? So like Avril Lavigne is like ultimately.
Isn't that the age-old
Yeah,
question?
isn't it? Like, no, I'm really me. So I think if you're a millennial, like you're gonna think of Avril Lavigne and people saying that Avril Lavigne is a clone. Her name
Melissa.
is Melissa. What is very, very interesting about the Avril Lavigne is a clone conspiracy theory is she actually like a week ago, thankfully to this podcast episode, she did an episode with Call Her Daddy, and she talks a little bit about people thinking that Melissa is her replacement. And Avril Lavigne died shortly after releasing her first album.
Have you guys heard this?
Yeah.
Y'all look a little millennial.
Yeah, everyone's like shaking their head. So people
Who thinks that's Melissa?
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
Hailey.
With that recent, she's like, it could be Melissa. So what's really interesting is Avril Lavigne got like a really bad case of mono when she released her first episode. So
Have you ever had mono?
No, thankfully.
Dude, it sucks.
You kissing slut.
I just love You've been smooching everyone.
I just love a smooch.
Bob, little Mike. Oh God, I don't know.
Ultimately, when she first released her album. It was right after she released it. Avril Lavigne got mono. And so Melissa was actually employed.
I don't know why that's making me laugh.
Melissa was actually employed to go to these mall visits for Avril Lavigne at the time.
No, I didn't know that
She was
much.
actually employed to be a stand-in for Avril Lavigne.
Wait, this is
This is
confirmed?
actually a thing.
I
yes.
did not
Yeah,
know that.
so-
I thought this whole Melissa stuff was just like
No. You
people
thought it was
being
pulled
like-
out of the.
I thought it was like Avril's eyebrows look a little different.
Well, okay, so the theory started shortly after this that she came out with that, hey, you, I don't like your girlfriend.
God.
Everyone was like, that is not Avril Lavigne, that is her clone.
That's not real
And so
punk.
that's really where the conspiracy theory started, but it really did begin with Paul McCartney is dead, and it has kind of repeated itself over time into these, the music industry has put too much money and energy into making these stars and ultimately them creating clones or lookalikes is to save their investments.
You know what cracks me up about the Avril Lavigne one though is like, okay, the Paul is dead theory, like Beatlemania was so insane.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that Paul is dead. If you guys do, I'm sorry.
I love that for you.
I think that you listen to those records backwards and you hear what you want to, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to hear something like Paul is dead, haha, you're gonna hear it.
Mm-hmm.
But like, who really gives a crap if Avril Lavigne dies?
Hey,
I mean,
she
no,
was
that's-
alternative Britney, and she was my bestie.
That's awful to say. I'm sure she's a lovely young
Yeah.
woman. But like what I'm trying to say is like there's not going to be riots in the street if Avril
Well, that's why I think
dies, right?
the British monarchy came in and was like, the Beatles can't die, you know?
But like you don't think like who was president when Avril was really popular? Like George Bush? I don't know. He's like, I'm not going to even try to do a George W. impersonation.
Please don't.
I will not do that. You think he's like, who can't die? That skater boy girl.
That skater boy.
We gotta clone that bitch. She
I love
can't
that.
die. There will be riots in the streets.
Yes. I think that the Beatles ultimately were so interesting, and obviously there was a lot of chaos and ultimate demise of the Beatles, and so I think that is really
Paul
interesting.
McCartney made fun of it later. Like he doesn't want to talk about the theory a lot, just like Avril.
Yeah.
Like she gave it like a little haha, like the podcast.
Yeah, how do you prove you're not?
Prove you're not a clone.
Ultimately.
She's like, I don't know, I'm here, I exist. Paul made like an album cover at some point where it was like a solo album, and it said like, instead of the license plate in the background referencing how old he was when he died, it was like referencing like how old he is now, and he's like on Abbey Road by himself. So
Wow. Yeah, I was really throwing gasoline onto the fire at that point. So I want to talk a little bit about my favorite conspiracy theory.
I'm so
it's
excited.
the most ridiculous. So again, we're
I'm
not
so
trying to
excited.
go too dark in this episode. Obviously, we're trying to keep it light and fun. I do say this right before I say what I'm about to say.
Stupid.
But my favorite celebrity conspiracy theory is that Taylor Swift and Harry Styles committed vehicular manslaughter and have been talking about it in their music since the 1989 era.
I need you guys to know that she said this in the chat the other day, and we're saying this, like, all of our stuff, and she goes, yeah, what about Taylor Swift's vehicular manslaughter? And I went, that was so dark.
I want to keep it light and fun.
I just
and
want
then
to keep
say,
it, like, silly and goofy about how, like, Taylor Swift accidentally killed a guy.
So ultimately, I don't know who originated this conspiracy theory, but if you are a Taylor Swift fan,
What do you guys call yourself?
Swifties.
Okay, thank you.
So if you are a Swiftie, you will know that she wrote a song called Style.
It's my favorite Taylor Swift
and
song.
so where this
Favorite.
theory started is pick me up, no headlights. He can't keep his wild eyes on the road.
That just sounds like a distracted driver.
Yes, exactly. Which is exactly how vehicular manslaughter begins.
I always just assumed this song was about Roadhead.
Oh, I love that for you. So the rest of the internet thought that it was vehicular manslaughter.
Vehicular man.
The next song,
Tomato.
the next song that comes up in her discography, which is also from 1989, is "Out of the Woods," which is 20 stitches in a hospital room. You hit the brakes too soon.
Oh, shit.
And so people started to pull these lyrics out of her music. And then another one was "All You Had to Do Was Stay," is the song, or "Stay, Stay, Stay." And ultimately they come in and say, like, you took your eyes off the road, drove us into a ditch.
And so,
Oh my God.
Okay, so Harry's driving and Taylor is a passenger in this vehicular manslaughter conspiracy theory. And so ultimately, right after this, they stop speaking, and she has a lot of songs about it. And so years go by, she releases a few albums, and then she releases Evermore, which is in 2020. She releases a song called "No Body, No Crime."
Oh my God. Now
And so people
I never put it all together.
if you put all the songs together, it's a little bit like, you were a really bad driver.
Okay.
We're talking about having nobody, no crime.
Think about I know what you did last summer. And can you imagine just
Yeah, it's essentially a
kill a dude? And then you're like, no one can know. I'm going to write a multi-platinum song about
I'm going to win the multiple Grammys talking about how you murdered someone and we drove away.
Taylor Swift and Harry Styles are two of the most famous people on the face.
Yeah. So when
They're like, no, you never know.
no one gonna bring up.
I'm going to write this song.
So what's interesting is,
That's a typewriter, but not a laptop. But Taylor Swift writes on a typewriter.
Yeah, she's a tortured poet, and so ultimately they're talking about this. This conspiracy theory started before Evermore came out, and it was becoming very popular at that time, and people were talking about it on TikTok, on Instagram, all these things. And then right after that conspiracy theory caught wind and started to gain traction, she released "Nobody, No Crime." And everyone's like, girl is a confirmation.
You think she knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
And that's
She's the most online celebrity I've ever met.
I just asked if Taylor Swift knew what she was doing, and someone in the audience was like, no shit, Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift. Oh,
She is a Tumblr celebrity through and through.
You know what is also, that brings us to another point of celebrity, conspiracy theories, though, is when they start playing into it.
But wouldn't you?
Oh, absolutely.
The game of celebrity is ultimately keeping your name discussed in the press, whatever it is, keeping people interested in you, even if they take you vehicular influence on this, or that you are actually dead, is a really great opportunity to stay discussed and keep people obsessed. What's beautiful about community around celebrity and stan culture is you have a whole marketing and networking group just keeping you discussed.
Yeah. I would say I would want to keep something in the news about myself as long as it wasn't totally damaging to my career, right? And what's funny,
How would you know in the long term?
what's funny is I killed someone. Is kind of saucy, right?
But if it's Shauna killed someone, guys, we're starting.
Spread the rumors. Whoopsie. I was a passenger princess. It wasn't really me.
Yeah,
I think.
Okay.
But at what point, what celebrity fan, conspiracy theory, at what point does a celebrity have to pump the brakes and be like, no, that's not true, right? Once it becomes, they're being accused of assault or
That's
something.
what I think. How do you prove you're not a clone? The second you say I'm not a clone,
Everyone's like, that's something a clone would say.
I think you have to not acknowledge it and forever.
That's interesting. So that kind
The Barbra Streisand effect,
Yeah, that kind of brings me to our next one, which is the Illuminati, right? So there's been this conspiracy theory for various celebrities, and we're going to talk a lot about Beyonce and Jay-Z, that they're Illuminati. So Olivia told me earlier that she knows a lot about the Illuminati, which is Suspicious.
I'm not in it. No, so
That's something that someone in the Illuminati.
yeah, exactly. So the Illuminati actually started as a Freemason group, which Freemasons were like this, like essentially like a fraternity of people back in the olden days. Like what we think of as a fraternity today.
So like elites.
No, like way back.
Oh, the olden. Okay, the olden.
Yeah. So there were these Freemason groups, and they were like a fraternity of men who would come together and they would make decisions about the society that they lived within. And Freemasons are very popular. Like you may hear people be like, oh, I'm a part of a Freemason group or whatever. But Illuminati was one of those groups and caught on within popular culture. I don't really understand when it first started entering as like, okay, celebrities and all of these elites and wealthy people were really all a part of this one Freemason group, which ended up being the Illuminati. The first time I really ever heard about the Illuminati was in relation to Beyonce and Jay-Z being a part of the Illuminati.
That's when I first started hearing about it too, is like MySpace.
Oh, wow.
Like Tumblr shit, where you all see those symbols and then they start getting into websites where they're like, anytime you see a triangle, it means it's the Illuminati. And so honestly, when it comes to the Jay-Z and Beyonce Illuminati theory, what I boiled it down to is racism.
Like what it normally is, you know?
American culture, racism. And when it started, like Beyonce rose to prominence through Destiny's Child, and like Jay-Z started becoming really popular, and then they got married, and everyone's like, these two people are very popular. They must be part of a world government group that's going to take over. No, maybe they're just very popular.
Yeah.
Good musicians, honestly. And then Jay-Z threw up like the Hova.
Yeah.
And so everyone says that's like the all-seeing eye symbol, like on the dollar. And so when Beyonce started throwing it up, I mean, that's literally her husband, or she's gonna do like the Rock Nation shit. But everyone is saying that Beyonce and Jay-Z are part, like the king and queen of the Illuminati. They're selling their souls to be famous. And I think that just the racist part of that is like, okay, a black woman and a black man are like the only way they could possibly be that famous is if they're selling their souls to the devil. And then there's other people who they say are in the Illuminati, Dr. Dre, Lady Gaga, and there. But
So one of the ones that I wanted to discuss was the Lady Gaga and Lena Morgana conspiracy theory. So if anyone has ever heard of Lena Morgana before, you raise your hand. If not, I love it.
I am a big Lady Gaga. She's a little. I am a little monster. She is the Swiftie. I've heard rumblings of this one, but
okay, you don't know the full story. Okay, so
you're about to break my Gaga heart.
I will say that I do not necessarily believe in this conspiracy theory.
Necessarily was the key.
So the conspiracy theory of Lena Morgana and Lady Gaga is that Lady Gaga sacrificed a woman named Lena Morgana.
Do you remember when we were going to keep this alive? And now we're at human sacrifice, racism, the government conspiracy.
So
Shadow Nations.
Yeah, so Lena Morgana was sacrificed by Lady Gaga, and it was hinted at in the Paparazzi music video.
Yeah.
So if you have seen the Paparazzi music video,
1,000,001 times.
Yes, I love that for you.
Yep.
It is basically Lady Gaga being pushed off of a
balcony by Alexander Skarsgård.
Yes, my love. So she's being pushed off of a balcony by Alexander Skarsgård. She ends up leaving, but in the actual music video, they see this newspaper, and it's called Lady No More Gaga, and people think that it says Lena Morgana. And Lena Morgana is a girl who was a part of Interscope Records. Before her and Lady Gaga met saying they were working together, they were writing songs together, they were, collaborating partners. And Lea Michelle fell off of a hotel building, randomly,
As we are all want to do.
and passed away. And then the reason that this conspiracy theory actually...
I'm sorry, that's my...
The reason that this conspiracy theory...
She fell off a building and then she didn't violently die.
Yeah, she passed away.
And that was just like a soft, gentle death.
Yes. Yeah, there you go.
Falling off a building is...
Yes, completely. It's not like... But the reason that this conspiracy theory started was there was a celebrity medium episode, and they ended up dedicating it to Lea Michelle.
Wait, was the celebrity medium that woman with this huge blonde hair?
I think it was the other guy, the Tyler guy.
It was a long time.
Yeah.
That's
Huge. But they dedicated this episode to her, and she wasn't really a part of the zeitgeist at the time. And so people on the internet were like, okay, why did we just watch this episode and this random woman has it dedicated to her? And so people started looking into it, and they were like, okay, she's kind of connected to Lady Gaga. As soon as that episode came out, her mother said, I think that Lady Gaga killed her.
What?
And then her boyfriend later came out, who was also connected to Lady Gaga as her really producing partner. Yes, the boyfriend that she had, Lena's boyfriend at the time, ended up being Lady Gaga's first producing partner.
Okay.
And so, go ahead.
So are they saying that Gaga killed her and like sacrificed her to like
as a part of the Illuminati?
Okay, so like a ritualistic sacrifice.
Yes, and so this is the whole story. And so whenever right after she passes away, Lady Gaga gets a very, very popular. She works with her ex-boyfriend at the time, Lena's boyfriend.
Everything you're saying, I'm not accepting.
Yeah, you're by the way. And so at this time, she gets very, very famous. And then the paparazzi music video comes out, which is almost a shot replication of how Lena dies. Now, what's crazy is Lady Gaga did end up taking style inspiration from Lea Michelle, and as all of her music early on sounds a lot like Lena's early music.
See, I saw Lena's music, but I know early Gaga, she released an album under her actual name, Stephanie Germanotta.
Yes.
So her album is just Stephanie. Mm-hmm. And she toured a lot New York nightclub scenes with this woman named Lady Starlight. So it was the Lady Starlight and Lady Gaga review. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's Gaga with the brunette hair and stuff. Mm-hmm. But this is very interesting. Do I believe it? No. Absolutely. Unequivocally, yes. All is dead. Lady Gaga and Taylor Swift.
Yeah, exactly. And so, it's really, really interesting. To this day, Lena's mother and Lady Gaga's boyfriend, or Lena's boyfriend at the time,
which
believe that she was sacrificed at the time. But I think a lot of the Illuminati conspiracy theories, if you remember Astroworld, the tragedy that happened there,
a lot of conspiracy theory.
A lot of people think it was a part of the Illuminati.
Right.
Sacrifice ritual.
Okay.
So I think a lot of it comes down to that. And people trying to find meaning within these horrible situations and horrible moments in time. And if the human brain can find a reason for it to happen, we're gonna think that other than mindless chaos.
I was just about to say, the Astroworld situation is obviously a mass tragedy, right? And we've had so many of those in the United States, unfortunately, and we all are so becoming immune to these, where it's thoughts and prayers. Oh, it's just another mass tragedy that happened to American soil, right? Mm-hmm. So I think at a certain point, we all become kind of desensitized to, we need to think up an excuse. Why did this happen? Is there something else that could have explained this? And especially it becomes kind of absurdist, Lady Gaga and blah, blah, blah killed this woman in a devil sacrifice, and Harry Styles and blah, I don't know. And I heard the one that Taylor is working secretly with the NFL,
The CIA.
and the CIA to like calm the American public and vote for Biden. Like, I don't know. I feel like anything that the people, that's all you. It can kind of, I don't know, calm these. There's all of this bad shit going on. And if we can accept that weird things are happening and causing the bad shit, that makes me feel a little better.
Yeah, I would agree. Now, I think I want to discuss my favorite.
I was going to say,
conspiracy theory.
this is the stupidest one. There's one that's
This is
really,
actually
like stupid. So there's this conspiracy theory that Olivia and I murdered a man 8 years. That's so stupid. Why would anyone believe
The best one actually is that Lea Michelle is illiterate. And I wonder, I see someone shaking their head up there. So, who here has ever heard that Lea Michelle can't read? So a few of us.
Lea Michelle's from Glee.
Yeah. So Lea Michelle is actually once Rachel Berry in Glee, and she had her start on Broadway. And so
She's very talented.
It's a very talented woman, and she was very talented child. And she started in Broadway, I want to say, when she was like 5 years old. And so she was in and out of Broadway from the time that she was a very little kid. And was doing Broadway for a really long time. When you are within television, movies, Broadway.
So she was like that child star, kind of like they're putting her where
to talk.
her parents are trying to see what's.
Yes, and by law, you have to attend a certain number of hours, but you have on-set teachers at that time.
A certain number of like educational hours.
Yes, and a very big criticism of child stardom is that the education that you receive from these on-set tutors is not enough. Right? Ultimately, you're going to school for 2 hours to learn when most kids are going for 8 hours a day. And so from the time that she was 5 years old to the time that she got Glee, which I think was about like 15, 16. I don't know. She may have even been older at that point.
I'm going to be honest. I never watched.
Yes, I wasn't like Glee. I wasn't.
For some reason, like the thought of sitting down and watching an episode of Glee sounds like peeling skin off.
I'm not a musical person, but I do.
I'm so sorry. Like I'm not.
Drama, so I know all of the drama associated with Glee. Like Mark Salinger. Oh, I know everything about that. Which is another conspiracy.
All I know is I'm gonna make a podcast that is so toxic. I'm kidding. That is all I got. It's so toxic. It's so toxic.
Yes. So basically, she's been within this child stardom situation for most of her life, right? And so in 2020, Lea Michelle came under a lot of flack for a lot of very bad behavior. And people are coming out and talking about how racist and like problematic things are problematic to people on set. And right around that exact time, Lea Michelle cannot read came up.
Every time you say it, it makes me laugh. And I'm not. If you can't read, I'm like, no hate.
If you're listening, there are probably certain moments.
Sir, if you can't read it, that's fine.
there are moments and there are situations that lead you to that. And I wanted to lead into Lea Michelle's potential illiterateness with that.
Illiteracy.
Yeah, illiteracy with that caveat. But ultimately, this conspiracy theory started on TikTok. And it was a compilation of Lea Michelle ultimately like presenting in award shows, right? They give you the card, you open the card, and every single time she would open the card,
Adele Dazeem,
and then look to the person next to her and ask them to read it. She would go and do it. And there are probably like 10 to 15 times where she goes,
okay, wait, Liv, I'm going to be honest. Like, I've heard this Lea Michelle can't read stuff, but I had no idea. It was like,
Yeah.
I thought it was just all of us, like, as a society, kind of not liking Lea Michelle. And so we all just kind of made up something really stupid collectively about it.
It's valid.
Like, Lea Michelle has 12 nipples, and we're like,
Yeah.
we don't know
She
you
must
can't
have
prove it.
please. Yeah. I can see the 12 nipples, but no. So ultimately, this gets
Olivia has
started with her, like, never, she would open the card and she would show it to the person
I had
after,
no
like,
idea.
read it. And so there became this repeated thing. And she wrote, like, a book when she wrote a book.
Wrote a book. Just like Britney Spears wrote a book.
Hey,
I liked the book. Girlfriend did
so
not.
she ghost wrote a book.
She read it.
Yeah.
She didn't write that shit. She didn't write that.
Yeah, so she ghost wrote a book, ultimately. And it was like for 15-year-olds. It was for gleeks. It was for younger kids, but it was very, very simple. And then the next book that she wrote was a journal. And so there wasn't really anything in it.
She published her own journal.
Yeah, it was just basically like journal prompts.
Oh, God.
So, people were going back and
They're all drunken poems.
yeah, people were going back and looking at these things and they were like, oh my God, Lea Michelle can't read. Now, what I do love about what Lea Michelle did, and I think this is the best way to say, okay, I'm not a clown, or okay, I can read, ultimately was she leaned into it. And she did this thing where she, like, went on and pretended to fake, like, read, and she was like, and then she just, like, read the whole thing.
That's really
And
cute.
and it was like a skit.
You know, I think that's what you need to do, right? Like, I didn't mean to cut you off, but, like, that's exactly what you need to do, is kind of lean into it, kind of make fun of it. It reminds me of, like, it's so shallow and honestly patriarchal, but, like, back in the day when everyone was saying Britney Spears had breast implants at like 17.
Yeah.
She hosted SNL. Do you remember? And she had like I can't believe everyone thinks I have boobs. Yeah. Boob implants. And then she had like the little mechanical boobs going up.
Yeah.
And then look it up on YouTube if you guys are too young for that. It's hilarious. I know this man in the back, he's already, sir, your hands. Keep your hands right. Can see it. But, like, she's got this little mechanical bra where her boobies go up and down. And then she goes, and people think I have lipstick. And then she starts kind of, like, lip dance. So I think the best thing you can do is
It's a good joke.
make a good joke. Because, like, the more that you deny something, the more it kind of seems true. Right?
Yes. Yeah. It ultimately is like the Barbara Streisand effect. And
What do you mean by that? You said that twice.
like, yeah, so there's, I can't remember the exact like situation, but so someone wrote something about Barbara Streisand, and instead of ignoring it, she full on like was like, this isn't true, this never happened, blah 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 blah, and it became a much bigger story at the end of the day because she adamantly was like, that's the truth, that didn't happen, all this stuff. And so it ended up being where she sued someone and it became like a long-term story, and because she was trying to like refute the facts of the story rather than just ultimately like letting it die and letting it, fade into nothingness. Yeah.
And that reminds me of Lady Gaga too, is when she first started her career, and it was honestly like very transphobic. Like there was kind of this conspiracy theory that she
Same with Sierra.
had a penis, right? And like everyone thought, oh, Lady Gaga's a man.
Yes, it was Sierra because she was ripped. Yeah.
That's so messed up. And not that that's messed up. Like it's transphobic to assume that like a woman, she must be a man because she's powerful. She's not factory hours. She has that kind of stamina. And Lady Gaga did this interview with Anderson Cooper where he goes, there's this rumor that you have a penis. And she goes, so what if I do? Would that be so bad? And he's like, most people would refute that. You have fun with it. She's like, why the hell would it? My fans don't care if I have a penis. Why am I gonna?
And then it went away.
And then it went away because she was like, if y'all think I have a dick, then cool. I got a big old donkey dick. Sure. That's gonna be the only quote that's snipped from this episode. I have a big old leg. And like,
Yeah.
but you know, she played around with it. She was like, who the hell cares about penis?
Yeah.
I'm still talented. You all love my music. And that's the thing is like, and not that I'm a big Lea Michelle fan, but like, you kind of like,
Yeah.
and like Paul released the album cover where he's on Abbey Road by himself with his shoes on. You know, and the more that you kind of play around with it, even Beyonce on, God, I don't remember what song, she said, like, y'all corny with that Illuminati shit.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I mean, like a lot of the time it's fun to zoom out and be like, wow, that's so silly. Like these things are so not rooted in reality. And then you look at, you know, Shauna and her husband always are like, oh my God, y'all, you are crazy.
oh my God, I'll say shit and he'll go, did Olivia tell you?
But I will say, yeah, this exact moment, I used to say that Diddy, you know, luckily P. Diddy was doing a lot of messed up things, to Justin Bieber, to, you know, what's her name? Kevin C. I've had all these stories, you know, they used to say that about Jeffrey Epstein and like Pedophile Island, where like all these things were very, very crazy. And it was like, wow, that's so ridiculous. And then they ended up being true. So I think it's fun.
Yeah, I think there's like a fine line, right? Where you have to think like, what is the proof of this? What is the societal, like, because obviously there's what Pizzagate with like Hillary Clinton, and that's such bullshit, right? And like,
but it had a very real impact to people.
Yeah. And there's things that like, there's conspiracy theories that you look back and you're like, oh yeah, that actually is a thing that we need to worry about. But then there's other this.
Yeah,
so just silly.
Hailey Bieber, she's Vladimir Putin.
If Hailey Bieber is cool, where's Selena Gomez and all of this? You know, it's funny. I love Selena Gomez.
You do?
I do know. I'm a Selena Gomez girl.
Theory that I think is the most fun is that Selena and Justin were caught buying drugs on Skid Row, and there is actual video evidence of.
You told me about that because Olivia tells me about them. It's between these shit, you know. She'll tell me like I'll be at her house every time I go to Olivia's house. Which is a lot. She puts on a record and she'll stand there in the living room. She's like, "You won't even believe what I just read, Shauna." And I'm like, what? I strap off to my boot and she's like, this is my new shit from the it's from the blind items. And you said, oh God, something about Selena and Justin.
They're not true.
Yes. And then
and they were in fighting I want to tell a song called.
That's true. Yeah. But I looked up the video the other day of them and I thought about you. I couldn't sleep and I was like, I'm going to watch this video. And it was Bieber and Selena buying drugs.
I wanted all of you, after you leave this conference room, to go Selena Bieber on Skid Row, and it'll pull right up, and it's this guy from like MS-13, and he's like, it's Bieber. Bieber's in the hood. What is he doing here?
So excited to see him. Okay, I will say, Bieber, they were buying keychains.
They were buying drugs. It is a never place where people go to buy drugs on Skid Row. First,
you never see the money.
Are you curious on Skid Row? I am a poor person not going to Skid Row.
I am a very little class person in South Bay,
and you wouldn't go to Skid Row, so neither would they.
I don't know. Maybe they got cute.
I love it so much.
They have novelty.
This is why they call the conspiracy theories people like Shauna.
And then you watch them jog away. you watch them jog. All right. Well, I hope you guys all are like thinking about your favorite celebrity conspiracy theories right now. And I hope you all think that Paul McCartney is dead.
Yes.
And I hope you all think that it was John Lennon to sell more Beatles records.
Or that Taylor No, Harry committed vehicular manslaughter.
Taylor was passenger princess. She had nothing to do with it.
Yes. As a she's perfect. I never single.
Taylor's never done anything without ever, and I know this, and I love you much.
Yes, thank you. Well, that's about it for this special live episode of the Pop Culture Junkie podcast. Thank you all for being here with us at Phoenix Fan Fusion. Now, before we all head back onto the floor, let's tell everyone where they can find us online.
You can find me, Shauna Trinidad, on Instagram and TikTok at Shauna Trinidad, ShaunaTrinidad.
And you can find me, Olivia, on Instagram at Olivia Maries, LIVIMARIEZ. And you can find the Pop Culture Junkie podcast, social media links, and more on our website, popculturejunkie.com. From there, you can find our podcast on all platforms. You can follow, subscribe, rate, review. You'll make us happy. You can tell us your favorite conspiracy theory. And then you can also, check us on Patreon. We get a little more raw. We let Shauna cuss.
We love you.
We do.
I see that.
There are no beeps. And you can find us on patreon.com/popculturejunkiepodcast.
Pictures of Olivia's feet.
Not my feet.
Pictures.
Unnamed friend Nicole.
Pictures of me without my
Yeah, you could say Shauna's broken foot. Yeah, we do have a lot of feet.
My X-ring picture.
Yeah, it's surprisingly not my feet pics, but if you follow us, we might let you have them. That's another conspiracy theory.
Asking me my DMs for so many pictures of my broken foot.
Really?
It's disgusting.
$20.
I'm gonna start charging them.
Yeah.
Can you send me a video of you putting on the boot?
Wow.
I'm not even. It's disgusting.
That's a real uncensored content.
Can you strap it on and then take it off real slow?
That's a conspiracy theory. No one else.
Shauna's boot is on. That's a conspiracy. Keep telling us you're doing amazing, baby.
Make you feel. And come back next week for another hit of pop culture.
Entertainment.